Good to have you back.
Hey, doing well. Yeah,
Look at
thanks for
you
having me back.
smiling, man. It's a good time for you.
It's been a pretty good couple of months here. Yeah. How have you guys been?
So we had you back here. I was just explaining. Then you joined the waiting room. I was like, let him explain. But we had you back here in August, and at the time it was, Patrick, you correct me, 80 million, right? And that was series A, was it at the time?
Series A. Yeah, that's right.
And now we are 4, 5, 6 months later. I mean, well, the announcement 6 months later of a Series B of a whopping 270 million, which puts Bedrock into the unicorn club, which is great for the industry. So congratulations. I think we should have a unicorn something, bell or something like that.
Yeah, emoji flying by.
Can you just okay, maybe Kevin, you could recap very briefly about Bedrock, and then tell us what's happened between August and between February. We're now in February, early February, and how this, why so much money, man?
Why so much money? Yeah, so Bedrock is automating heavy equipment, and we're starting with construction. So we've got a bunch of excavators out on customer sites. I think we were just starting that work when we talked to you. We have a number of other sites. We've finished one. We did 10% of a job for one of the GCs, about 70,000 cubic yards. So we've gotten these things out in the wild. The vision is to bring self-driving technology into the construction space so that we could build things faster, build the highways, data centers, power. Why so much money? It's a lot of work. We're training big models, and there are many, many different pieces that need to come together for us to build the system. It's not just a piece of software. A machine that's out there in the wild, the safety has to be extremely, extremely competent, and then all of the behaviors need to be there as well. And so it's an interesting problem. It's a kind of a complex team that you have to build to do that. There's a lot of data collection. There's a lot of hardware that we need to go out and purchase and roll things out. So the raise gives us a pretty good amount of runway. So that's part of the thinking. It was also opportunistic. Investor came in and said, hey, we're really excited about this. And CapG and Valor just love what we're doing. So very excited to have them on board.
So capital G, Google's, I don't want to butcher the description, but let's say PE team, growth PE, tech PE team. And at the same time, Sequoia does Waymo, 16 billion at 126. So what do the two of them have to do with each other?
They are not connected. We sort of heard that a great round is happening for Waymo. There's no direct connection. Of course, the indirect connection is robotics and autonomy. And we're at a point where the technology really works. So with Waymo, it's, they're launching, every couple of weeks, I see another few cities that are launching. Can't track it at this point. I can now get a ride to the San Francisco airport, which is something I couldn't do for a long time. Mm-hmm. So we launched, our team helped launch the freeways, and now that's out in the public, and that's enabling all of that, which means that Waymo can go basically everywhere. So the connection to us is maybe that Waymo really focused on the safety side and getting large scale robotics out into the field. And that's now very functional. And you can see it, and they're scaling, and it just works. So for us, we're still early on in the journey. There's some differences. We're building these behaviors into the system. It's a tool. You have to talk to it. You have to tell an excavator what to do. Construction crews change their plans every day. That's very different than a car where you're going from A to B, and what you're going to encounter is complex traffic. That's very hard, but stable. And so some differences, but also some relationships between the two.
I'm just curious, which one's harder?
Which one's harder? I think they're different. I think they're fundamentally different problems. It's hard to describe one as harder or easier. I think the cars happened earlier because really Larry and Sergey fell in love with the problem, and they wanted to fund it. They thought it was important. Safety is important. And safety is really the problem. It's 99% of the problem. You can talk about the ML stuff all you want. It's important, but if you don't get safety right, first of all, you're going to save lives if you make the cars safe, and second of all, if you mess it up, you got a business, and there are several companies who've done that, and so that's really the problem. In construction, it really is this tool where the behaviors are interesting and the things that you're building are interesting. You have to be in, when we develop these systems, we work very closely with GCs. We launch the product with them, and we build, and they're telling us what they're doing literally twice a day, they'll come in and say, okay, do this, do this, do this. And they need to be able to talk to the machine. So things like LLMs are very important there. And of course, we care a ton about safety. Our machines need to be safe, but you have a more controlled site. And now we know how to solve that problem. And so we're on to the next problem, which is this manipulation task. And that's where all the robotics focus is going today. So I don't know which one's really harder, but definitely different. And the technology focus, the lens that we take to these things follows a circuitous path. And now we're working on this one.
So, Kevin, which construction vehicle will be autonomous soonest?
We're starting with excavators, and then we'll do a second machine. We'll start working on that pretty soon. We haven't picked which machine yet. The idea of the architecture is that we can move from machine to machine very quickly. We turn it into a data problem. So we learn the behaviors, and we build an engine that lets us onboard those behaviors quickly. And it doesn't really matter what vehicle we're doing. There are different considerations. Higher speed vehicles, you need to think about redundancy a little bit more. But start with excavators and very quickly move to a few other machines.
Last one from me is, what's the time scales?
Like when we're launching?
Yeah, when you will have fully automated excavators.
So we're trying to launch the first one in the next year, and then scale that up with our customers. And we already have them running on customer sites. We supervise them, of course, because we're still vetting the technology. But we're going fast. It's part of the reason people are excited about us.
Kevin, we have a lot of potential customers for you listening in. So maybe it would be quite interesting for them to also hear, like from the customer perspective, what's an ideal customer for you in the next 1 to 2 years? Like size, project size, how do I have to organize? Like who's ideal for Bedrock at this stage?
And geography.
Geography. So we're in a lot of geos in the US. We're in 10 different geos. So, and we're expanding those. So as long as it's in the United States, we're excited to work with customers. We're doing a lot of mass excavation right now. So any job where there's a lot of movement of dirt, loading trucks. The typical projects that we're on right now are data centers, factories, roads, highways, and the thing we're most interested in at the moment is excavation. So anywhere where there's critical path goes through excavation and then moves on to the next phases. Those are the jobs where we're working pretty well right now.
Is the amount of volume that I need to move a factor for you right now?
Mostly because of interest, we're focused on larger jobs, but hundreds of thousands to millions of cubic yards, which a million cubic yards is a giant job. We've done things on order of 100,000 cubic yards.
I think that's a great profile.
Is this completely autonomous today, or do you have a co-pilot like Waymo started with people just sitting in the wheel, or have you exited that phase?
We're supervised is what we call it. So there's a person sitting in the cabin that will transition pretty soon here to fully driverless.
Well, hey, Kevin, what's your view on building a team? Are you hiring people from what makes it you hire, utilizing outsiders, people that have worked maybe in more general industries outside of construction versus people that have the expertise in construction, both from like a commercialization perspective, like getting these things rolled out into jobs, and also from like software, hardware, engineering perspective?
So commercialization team for the next 4 or 5 months, we're probably not growing a whole lot. We've got a fantastic commercialization team. Once we get into a little bit more of a scaling mode, which might be like 6 to 9 months out, we'll be looking for people who know construction. There's a sales side, business development, things like that. And you really have to know the industry to do that work. We do have a few people from the industry there. And then we have operations. So we basically run our test site's basically a construction site. So we have operators on site. We think a lot about safety, and then we're going to customers and talking to them about the jobs that they're doing. We need to understand those. So we have people, sort of a handful of people there from the industry that we're looking for. So if we're really looking for people who have a lot of experience, maybe 20 years of experience working in the field, who've seen every aspect of the job. And there's some really fantastic people that we brought on board who had that kind of experience. If you're out there listening and you're curious, reach out. We're definitely interested in fantastic people.
Does anyone have any more? Otherwise, I have a couple more we could.
Yeah, I have a lightweight one. So the arm going to look slightly differently? than currently, like, cat excavators or the other ones. I'm just wondering if the fact that you will be making it autonomous, is it going to change the way it looks to a certain level?
That's a fantastic question. I think in the short term, we want to be on the machines that are out there, and so we don't want to change anything. There's good business reasons. It's really hard to build a new machine. We're not really interested in doing that. We want to build software. I think in the long term, you don't need a cab. That changes the weight of the machine, the weight distribution. If you look at an excavator, the arm is actually kind of offset, and that's hard to manage. So there's things like that will change.
I've been looking at your category, right? And so Build Robotics, founded 2015, raised over 100, moved also slightly outside of the space. And I think that, that was also a different time. I think very, very challenging problem to begin with, but also technology around the company at the time perhaps was different than it was today. Okay, then Safe AI, Vibra G, 2017, raised 70 million. Pronto acquired them. And there's Pronto, Anthony Lewandowski's firm, raised, I actually don't know if it's public. My guess is in north of 100, but I don't know. Brought in the Safe AI team. Then in Europe, also there were in 2022, there's Gravis Robotics from Switzerland, raised somehow 30. SenseMore in Munich, maybe 10, but the company's relatively young. And then you guys came out in 2024. Chinese companies, I'm leaving those out. Then Caterpillar has their program, etc. So here's my question. Not why are you excited about it? I can completely get it. But why are VCs backing all these different companies rather than concentrating capital into one winner? What do you think?
Well, I think probably they started to concentrate all their capital into one winner. I won't say who that is, but you listed a bunch of companies over. I think Built started in 2017. I know Noah. He went through an incubator that my last company went through. If AI guys started on trucks, and that was, I want to say 2019. And then Pronto started maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So there's this, people have seen, the VCs have seen that this is an interesting space. They're very excited about it. The business is pretty obvious. The technology really hasn't been here. And frankly, I think most of the very, very good roboticists out there have been focused on cars for 15, 20 years. And so, that's where the talent was going. I don't think we could do this without the kinds of things that we have today with LLMs. And so anybody that started 10 years ago, great idea, great heart, wrong timing. And so, it's kind of the story. If you look at delivery, for instance, there was Webvan, and then there was like DoorDash and Postmates and Uber Eats, and Webvan famously failed.
Oh, I love that reference, man. People forget Webvan.
Yeah,
Never heard of it till then.
same thing, right? So that's what we're seeing, and now it's the time for robotics and AI, and it's just transformed. The last 3 years have transformed. Technology has transformed. Our understanding of how to do safety, really from Waymo, and if you look at other companies like Tesla, it doesn't seem like Tesla's really figured out that dimension yet. The ML side has come a long way, and so if you asked me 3 years ago if this was possible, I'd say maybe not. And 2 years ago, we decided there was, and still had some work to do. And now it's just going like crazy. So timing is absolutely everything.
Amazing answer. All I heard you say is now capital is going to concentrate.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
I love it.
I got one more if
Cool.
I can.
I have a few more minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that a lot of capital will go into building your own models. I guess maybe you can explain why building your own model is important for you, and also what will be defining the winners in this category.
So first of all, we do leverage off-the-shelf models, pre-trained models, perception models, things like that. There's great work out there that's open source and closed source that you can fine tune and partner and build these things. Video models are unbelievably expensive to train. And so we're not talking about those kinds of things. There's a gap between, I like to think of LLMs as kind of book smart. They've read every forum on Reddit. They've read every book that's ever been published. And that's amazing. And you get a lot of knowledge from that. But when you get out in the field and something like construction, and really I think it's true like in many, many domains, but you get out in construction, it's not in the book. And you think about what people do with excavators, picking up a pipe and that there's a person pushing back on that pipe and you want to make sure you don't knock them over. That kind of behavior doesn't exist in the data sets that are out there. And so we have to collect that data. We have to figure out all of the reasoning steps. We're going to leverage a lot of things that are there, but then this connection between the book smart and on the ground intelligence needs to be built out. And so we're building those models. Who's going to win here? Like, what's the interesting thing to build? I think the intelligence of the machine is table stakes. Safety is, I said that safety was a bigger thing for Waymo. And what I mean there is that it's hard, but here it's unbelievably important. Like if you do safety wrong, that's it, you're done. And it's very easy to mess that up. So you have to be safe. And then the user interface just has to be this beautiful thing. It just needs to be, like you radio the machine, you call it, you text it. There's probably, we're working on a user interface that looks a little bit more like a video game. So it's in the cloud and you can manage multiple machines and tell them what to do at a mission level. And then you probably want to be able to like prompt the machine and say, today you're going fast, just strip all the dirt. Tomorrow you're being precise. And this is what that looks like. And so that just has to be unbelievably intuitive. It's got to drop in, you turn the thing on, and it goes. And that's really, really hard to do. So we do spend a lot of time thinking about that.
Yeah, very cool. The missing piece is you need to integrate with a Claude bot so people can operate it from their beds via WhatsApp.
Yes. Or maybe not. I don't know. Terrifying.
My advice is free.
And also exciting.
Kevin,
Cool.
I loved your analogy. The LLMs are book smart. They're not street smart.